We are recording.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. The January 27th, 2023 regularly scheduled meeting of the Neighborhoods Education, Civil Rights and Culture Committee will come to order. It's 9:31. I'm Tammy Morales, Chair of the committee. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Strauss.
Present.
Councilmember Lewis.
Present.
Councilmember Nelson.
Present.
Chair Morales.
Here.
4 present.
Great. Thank you very much. If there's no objection, today's agenda will be adopted. Hearing no objection, today's agenda is adopted. Folks, this will be a relatively brief meeting. We've got 2 items on the agenda: an appointment to the Human Rights Commission and 1 piece of legislation related to the Historic Preservation Review procedures. And that will be it. As we move into public comment, I'm going to open up the general public comment period. As a reminder, we do have folks in person, and I believe we do have people signed up electronically. Is that right, Devin? Okay. I'm sorry, I don't have that sheet up. How many people do we have on virtually?
We have 10 signed up virtually and 3 that are marked non-present.
Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is start with the folks who are virtual, and then we'll move to the folks who are here in public, in chambers. So as a reminder, I'll ask everyone to please be patient as we operate this hybrid system. It does remain the intent of council to allow for public participation. And it remains our intent to make sure that we are keeping things in order. So if the system is being abused or unsuitable for any of our meeting, we will cut the mics and ask you to refrain from continuing your comments. I'll moderate the public comment period in the following manner. We'll have up to 20 minutes. Let's see, how many people do we have? I'm going to give folks 1 minute. We've got, looks like about 40 people signed up. So we'll give folks 1 minute to speak. I'll call on, as I said, the folks who are virtual first, and then I'll begin with the folks who have signed up here in chambers. Once you speak, if you're virtual, please press *6 to unmute, and remember that you will receive a chime when you have 10 seconds left. So please wrap up your comments so that we can move on to the next speaker. Okay, I am going to open up public comment with the virtual folks. I'm getting a security warning when I try to open the public comment sheet. So Devin, I'm going to ask you to call the virtual folks, and then I will use the sheets that are here. And we'll give folks 1 minute.
Hello.
So first up, we have Megan Murphy.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak. I'm in support of Ezra Allen being elected to Human Rights Commission. My story is much like Ezra Allen's because I've experienced extraordinary hardships of being stalked for over 12 years now, which is the cause that my son ended up in the foster care system and adopted, with these billionaires in the shadows stalking me. One was a client of Jeffrey Epstein and psychologically abusing me, using my AA meetings to send people that look like them to psychologically harass me and make me feel like no matter how hard I kick and scream and fight, they're still going to stalk me. And I demand that they are held accountable and forced out of my life. Just like Ezra Allen experienced hardships and he wished that somebody would help him, these are not the people that I want helping me, that are psychologically abusive. It's been extremely painful. And I demand it stops. People with money need to be held accountable. Just because they have money gives no excuse to be able to stalk a woman and sexually harass me from a distance without ever having sat down with me at a table face to face and asked me if it's okay, and minimizing my feelings as if they don't matter when it really hurts bad. And I've demanded several thousand times that they do not stalk me.
Your time's expired. Thank you very much. Devin, will you call the next person, please?
Next, we have Devin McComb.
Good morning, and thank you, Chair Morales and valued City Council members. I'm very grateful to be with you today. Only wish I could be there in person to see this good community work happening. My name is Devin McComb. I'm the current chair of the Pike Place Market PDA Governing Council. and I'm calling you today and making this comment in support of the proposed amendment to Council Bill 120456 that you're considering. I've sent a letter as chair of the PDA Council with an explanation of our support for the removal of the Market Historic Commission from the impact of this council bill. We're just beginning the process to create a 50-year master plan for the market. And we'll be working with all of the members of the market community, the Friends of the Market, including members of the Market Historical Commission, the Foundation and others, and city leadership to ensure that the market stays true to its history and is positioned to remain a thriving soul of the city. And we want to address any questions around this at that time. So please vote in support of this proposed amendment, and thank you.
All right, it looks like we have Bob Messina not present. So I'll hold on for Bob, but we'll go to the next person in line, which is Chris Woodward.
Chris, are you there? Remember to press *6 to unmute.
Thank you. Hey, good morning, council members. My name is Chris Woodward. I'm with the Alliance for Pioneer Square. Just want to provide brief comment today in favor of the committee's passage of Council Bill 120456 with the amendment regarding Pike Place Market included. The COVID pandemic had a serious economic impact on Pioneer Square. One of the positives that did come out of the COVID pandemic was the city's approval of legislation to allow for minor historic preservation applications to be reviewed administratively by the Historic Preservation Program staff. This streamlined process for minor projects is advantageous for all, including the Historic Preservation Program, conserving staff capacity, as well as applicant time. In 2019, we engaged Place Economics to do a report on how to support historic districts, and one recommendation from that was shifting routine preservation approvals to staff to streamline the process. So for those reasons, I'm urging the council or the committee to approve this council bill with the amendment regarding Pike Place Market. Thank you.
Next, we have Christine Vaughn.
Christine, you'll need to press *6 to unmute.
Have I unmuted?
There we go.
This is Christine. Thank you. This is Christine Vaughn, and I'm speaking to CB 120456. The citizens, in their wisdom, put the preservation of the Pike Place Market in the hands of the Market Historical Commission, and the city, in its wisdom, put the management of the market in the hands of the PDA. Both these organizations have joined the voices of members from all sectors of the market community, asking the market be taken out of Council Bill 120456. There is no jeopardy to new housing in heeding these voices because there is no new housing planned in the Pike Place market. It is already an exemplary model of how mixed rate housing can work. Please pass the amendment offered by Councilmember Lewis that takes the market out of the legislation. It ain't broke. Please don't fix it. Thank you for the time.
Okay, next speaker we have is also marked not present, Howard Gale. We'll come back to Howard as well after we move through. So the next person present we have is Irene Wall.
Good morning. My name is Irene Wall. I'm a Seattle lifer and a member of Friends of the Market. This week, there was a widely circulated article from the New York Times about the ubiquity of modern architecture. Embedded in the article was a challenge to correctly identify the location of several new buildings between Denver, Nashville, and Seattle. It wasn't easy, and I only got one right. But if any of those pictures had been of any building in the market, it would have been a no-brainer. Pike Place Market is wonderfully distinctive, and we need to keep it that way for our shared identity as Seattle and for the success of the farmers, vendors, artists, agencies, and businesses who keep the place humming. The best way to do this is the historic way, where the Market Historic Commission maintains its full authority over decisions about the infrastructure, buildings, and commercial enterprises in that unique web of activity. Place Market. Please support Amendment 1 to remove the market from Council Bill 120456. It's the right way to keep the market authentic and as a great place in the heart of the city and in the hearts of Seattleites. Thank you.
Next, we also have marked not present Robert Messina. So we'll move on to Lauren Rudek.
Good morning. My name is Lauren Rudek. I'm a commissioner for the Pike Place Market, as well as a business owner in the market and an architect. I want to thank Councilmember Lewis for his amendment to remove the Pike Place Market from Council Bill 120456. It is imperative that the historic review process remain a public process for transparency and accountability. Though some of these items may seem small in the original bill, they have great impacts on the Pike Place Market. These little details make the market a unique place that it is today. During the past few years, when administrative approval was allowed, the Department of Neighborhoods approved applications that violated the guidelines. They did not post these decisions until after the appeal time, making it impossible for the public to voice their concerns. If these mistakes were made then, what will stop them from happening in the future? The survey the Department of Neighborhoods presented at the last meeting was only given to a select group of people that the Department of Neighborhoods cherry-picked, and was only responded by 33 people. As a market, business, and an architect and a commissioner, I ask you to remove the Pike Place Market from the Council Bill 120456 as proposed by Councilmember Lewis's amendment.
Thank you very much.
Okay, now it looks like Howard Gale is present, so we'll move on to Howard.
Good morning. Howard Gale with SeattleStop.org. This morning, as you make an appointment to the Seattle Human Rights Commission, it is important for you to make clear to these volunteers whether you expect them to be a force for change or a front for pretense. Last April, the Seattle Human Rights Commission voted overwhelmingly to inform the federal court of Seattle's failures of police accountability and its continuing police abuses. Less than 24 hours later, the city attorney's office successfully and illegally threatened and bullied the Human Rights Commission into inaction and silence, as documented by Carolyn Bick. The council and this committee have remained silent in the face of this assault on human rights, which continues now in 2023. Worse yet, Chair Morales chose on September 29th to participate in a meeting where human rights commissioners were chastised, insulted, and bullied by members of the Community Police Commission. Since then, well over half of the Human Rights Commission has resigned. It is extremely disheartening when, in an attempt to maintain a fiction of a functioning police accountability system, council members are willing to destroy their own Human Rights Commission. Thank you.
Those are all the speakers that we have marked present for the time being from online.
Okay, thank you, Devin. All right, so we'll begin with the folks who are in chambers. First, I have Dion Lucero, followed by Haley Land and Joan Paulson. There's 2 mics up here, so y'all can come on up and we'll hear what your testimony is.
Good morning, Chairperson Tammy Morales. My name is Dion, and today I just want to speak very briefly about, I hope this will begin a series of conversations that I would like to have regarding the economic state of Black Americans. In this society, the illiterate and the illiterate are the most marginalized and unrepresented. I would like to talk about the achievement and wealth gap between Black and white Americans. The National Assessment of Educational Progress data results revealed that 83% of Blacks in America were not shown proficient in reading at the 12th grade level. This is important because we know that the debilitating and crippling effects of illiteracy denies access to the freedoms, liberties, civil or human rights afforded to citizens of democratic societies. The data results from this research would thus inform us that in this society, the illiterate are the most marginalized and underrepresented. And I hope I've given you a letter, Ms. Tammy Morales, and as well as the mayor, and I hope this will begin a conversation pertaining to the civil rights of the illiterate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Haley Land, followed by Joan Paulson.
Good morning. First, I want to thank Councilmember Lewis for his responsiveness to our pleas. I reviewed the entire tape of your December meeting, and I realized that besides the Department of Neighborhoods supplying not one reason for taking authority away from the MHC, and besides all the arguments given for the MHC's superior transparency, accountability, accessibility, knowledge, diversity, and agility, there's one other compelling argument to make. What hasn't been said is that by the latest count, the market hosts 15 million satisfied customers a year. So it must be conceded that the market, the self-governing little neighborhood that it is, must be doing something right. And it will not do it as right without its deliberative bodies, including the MHC, which has met regularly for 50 years with the commitment to preserve the market's character for the next 50 years and for those millions and millions of people still to come. So for the public's sake, please make the obvious decision and remove Section 8 from Bill 120456. Thank you.
Joan Paulson, followed by Sarah Patton and Janet Way.
I am a person who wants transparency in government, small g. I am a supporter of the Washington State Open Public Meeting Act, 1990. Thank you for the consideration of the removal of the Pike Place Market Historical Commission from Dawn's oversight. This action will continue to support the 1971 and market initiative vote to save this market yet again. However, the other 7 districts will not have transparency or the State Open Public Meeting Act protections. The reason why this is important now is because the Pike Place Market has been engaged in the past 4 years in a non-transparent and non-open public meeting process in their 50-year planning process. This will undermine the market's efforts since the 1971 initiative. If this master plan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. If you would like to submit the rest of your comments in writing, please do that at Seattle. Yep. Council.gov. Okay, we have Sarah Patton, followed by Janet Way and Billy O'Neill. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name's Sarah Patton. I've been a volunteer for Friends of the Market since 1964, and I served on the Market Historical Commission for 10 years. I'm here to urge you to adopt Councilmember Lewis's amendment to 12456. It's incredibly important that these decisions to be made not behind closed doors, but in a Market Historical Commission proceeding. The Historical Commission guidelines prohibit franchises and chains of the market unless, of course, you started there, hence Starbucks. The commission keeps other chains out, so no Burger King in the market, and that's hard. But the commission has no to big business, and please adopt the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Janet Way, followed by Bill O'Neill.
Good morning. My name is Janet Way. I'm with the Save the Market Entrance group, the group that landmarked the Hahn building. And we are strongly in favor of Councilmember Lewis' amendment. And because the Pike Place Market matters. It matters to people around the world. It's world famous. My family has been visitors there for the past 40 years, as have everyone in this room. And it should not be just in the hands of the Department of Neighborhoods with no public oversight. It should be in the hands of the market itself. And its historic value can't be underestimated. And so I urge you to adopt the amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Billy O'Neill, followed by Elaine Spencer and Heather Peel. Please go ahead.
Hi, my name is Billy O'Neill. My mom and I came to this country in 1966. My earliest memories as a kid was going to the Pike Place Market with my mom, who would take me down a couple times a year. I'm now lucky enough to have a space in the Pike Place Market called Glass Eye Studio. I'm located on Flower Row. I've been there for almost 4 years, and I've seen a significant change by Director Mary Baccarella to dissolve and take the power away and the checks and balances away from the contingency, excuse me. Please don't let this happen. The Pike Place Market is truly unique. It's the only thing we have that's still truly Seattle. and it needs to stay Seattle. And we need to have checks and balances. We need to have oversight. And I implore on all of you to please do not let this happen. Thank you.
Elaine Spencer, followed by Heather Pill.
Good morning. My name is Elaine Spencer. At the hearing on ordinance 120456, and indeed today it would appear that it was unanimous that the Park Place Market should be removed from the ordinance. Since then we've learned there are a few people who would like it to remain in the ordinance as initially drafted, mostly property owners and business owners in the district. You shouldn't be surprised by that. Nothing's actually unanimous. I've spent my career trying to help businesses navigate government process, and most business would rather not be regulated. But context is everything. Where the context, as it is here, is one of the most beloved, iconic places in a world-class city, a business needs to expect that it will be subject to the legitimate rights of the public to review and supervise what goes on. Thank you, Council Member.
Thank you very much. Heather Pill, followed by Paul Fellows and Miranda Arney.
Hi, I'm deeply honored to read a letter from Alex Reluda from Reluda Architects. He had planned to be here today, but he's home with a cold, so he reached out to me to read his letter. Good morning, City Council members. My name is Alex Reluda. I am a licensed architect and have an architecture firm in Pioneer Square. More importantly, I have served on 3 historical preservation boards as a board member and chairperson. These include the International District, Pike Place Market, and most recently Pioneer Square. Currently, I serve as a board member on CCDAC, that's Capital Campus Design Advisory Committee in Olympia. We advise the State Capital Committee chaired by the Lieutenant Governor. I am in full support of the amendment. I was chair of the Pike Place Market Preservation Board during the 2008 renovations. I worked closely with Duncan Thiem and his team at SCP to make sure renovation improvements were minimally visible to the extent that I requested they provide pipe run mock-ups. I'm sorry, I'm gonna run out of time.
That's all right. Please, your time has expired, but you welcome to send those to council members, and we're happy to take those. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Paul Fellows, followed by Miranda Arney, and then we'll have Frank Albanese. Please go ahead.
Good morning, committee members. I strongly support the Lewis Amendment to remove the Pike Place Market from this legislation that's currently being considered. The voters of Seattle decided to create a special district and commission to protect the market, its buildings, and the function of the district from pressures of the highest and best use, so often responsible for the destruction of iconic buildings and places here in Seattle. Because of this wise decision on the part of the Seattle voters, the market has continued to be a magnet, drawing many tourists as well as locals from far and near. There is kind of a magic in the way the Pike Place Market works as a district, especially to those who visit the place. It is through the oversight of the Special Commission that the pressures of development, which we can see negatively changing many of our well-loved districts, is mitigated. If you move decision-making on the future of the Pike Place Market into this proposed new blanket planning scheme, it won't be long before developers take over modification, and we will lose an.
Thank you. Miranda Arney, please go ahead.
Today. I believe this bill was created in good faith of good government. I also believe that it's impossible to create good governance about Pike Place Market without the input from its constituents. The market has sustained and thrived through many outside challenges precisely because all of its proposed changes are open for discussion from the public and more specifically from the people that the change might affect. I realize this may take more time and effort to complete the process this way, but sometimes efficiency is not the best answer. While I understand that the proposed changes included in this bill may seem minor, any change in one of these proposed areas, mechanical, seismic, accessibility, fire safety, et cetera, could usually affect the overall character of the market if it's not executed with care and with public review from the people, from the voices of the people that it might affect. This may seem like a tedious process to you, and frankly it is. But this is how the Pike Place Market remains the shining crown jewel of Seattle. It is how we promise to stay accountable to each other, and it is how we sustain this special place.
Thank you. Frank Albanese, followed by Sharon Shaw and Gina Caraba. I'm going to ask the audience to restrain from applauding after each speaker so that we can get through everybody in the time that we have, please. Frank, followed by Sharon Shaw and Gina Caraba. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I wrote a 2-minute speech, so I'll have to cherry pick what I can out of here. Previous owner of 15 years in the market with a store and served 4 years on the Historical Commission, 2 years as chairman. Once I opened and became part of the market environment, I very quickly understood and respected the importance of the Historical Commission. Embracing the character of the market is key to the market's success now and well into the future. Pike Place Historical Commission Board is comprised of individuals that live, work, and dedicate personal time to ensure that the character of the market is well balanced and adheres to the guidelines established in the 1971 Save the Market initiative. This sacred responsibility must be governed in the public's eye by the Pike Place Historical Commission, not behind closed doors of the Department of the Neighborhoods with no public input and no commission oversight. The Historical Commission has guided the market for 50 years, maintained its character, ongoing vitality, its deep-rooted history, and an inviting market for Seattleites and visitors alike to enjoy well into the future. Don't jeopardize.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, Sharon Shaw and then Gina Caraba. Please go ahead, Sharon.
Good morning. I have the wonderful privilege of being the mother of the Pike Place Market. And what you see here today, I have a huge action in. I spent the last month talking and walking the Pike Place Market and listening to my community. And we all know that the way that the market is working now is absolutely perfect. It's really difficult at times, but it's what's necessary. We need the public comment for anything, basically, that happens at the Pike Place Market. We do understand the length that it takes, and we do understand how hard it is, but we need to continue to do the job ourselves. Thank you.
You. Gina, followed by Maggie Haynes and Kate Kraft. Please go ahead.
I was part of the shareholders committee for the new development at the market, and I got to see firsthand how everybody reached out to the community to find out what we all needed and what we all wanted for the new development. And instead of having 11 30-story condos built right up in front of the view that is amazing from the market, we were able to have a beautiful pavilion and all of these amazing views that people throng the patio to come out and see. And we really focused on making sure the flavor of the market was preserved and that everybody had a say. And it was a really amazing process, which would have been absolutely impossible with city council oversight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, it is almost 10 and we do still have, Devin, can you grab that? We probably have another 20 people. I'm going to suggest that we go till 10:20 if colleagues don't mind. Is there any objection? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Maggie, please go ahead.
I'm Maggie Haynes from Friends of the Market, and I echo what everyone else has said supporting Councilmember Lewis's amendment. The market's like an organism that is supported by different legs, and one of those legs is the Market Historical Commission. We need it to continue for the market to function in all of its parts, and removing the Market Historical Commission could change the authenticity of the market, which would have a huge financial impact on the city of Seattle because it brings so many tourists and Washingtonians down there. I really appreciate Councilmember Lewis's amendment and fully support it, and thank you.
Great. We have Kate Kraft, followed by Bruce Rutledge and Richard Caldwell. Please go ahead.
Hello,
I'm Kate Kraft. I'm a member of the Friends of the Market. First, I want to thank Andrew Lewis for introducing this amendment to Council Bill 120456. By adopting this amended ordinance or Council Bill, you will be recognizing thousands and thousands of the citizens of Seattle who voted in 1971 by public initiative to preserve the Pike Place Market and to preserve not just the buildings, but the character of the market. You will be recognizing the creation of the Pike Place Market Historic District and the Market Historical Commission. That commission has been made up for 50 years of a diverse group of citizens who are devoted to the market. So thank you for recognizing the work of the commission, not just in the past, but for the future.
Thank you. Bruce, followed by Richard Caldwell and Alex Rasmussen.
Thank you, Chair Morales. I'm Bruce Rutledge. I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner in the market for the past 9 years. My store is in the Down Under, the 3rd floor of the Fairley building. And I want to say we're thriving right now. We're coming out of the pandemic stronger than ever. And one of the reasons is the hyper focus of the Historical Commission, who cares about our neighbors and the mix and the collaboration on the floor. I strongly urge you to support Councilmember Lewis's amendment and keep the market on a path to success. Thank you.
Thank you. Richard, followed by Alex Rasmussen and Gulnaz Mohammadi.
Would like to pass?
Okay, I'm sorry, what's your name, sir?
Cardwell.
Okay, thank you. Alex Rasmussen, Gulnaz Mohammadi, and Grace Leong.
Good morning. I'm a Seattle native, street musician, and salesperson at Pike Place Market. With its rich history and eclectic mixture of local businesses, the market has often been described as the soul of the city. One of the reasons it's maintained its charm is the fact that it operates as a self-contained universe, fending for and making decisions for itself in the midst of a metropolis that is deteriorating before our eyes. I'm asking that the City Council allow us in the Pike Place Market family to maintain oversight of our cherished little corner of Seattle. Otherwise, if you begin calling shots without our essential input, I and many others fear the market will begin to lose its unique character that makes it a staple of our vibrant community and a travel destination for visitors from around the world. Thank you.
Thank you.
As the Pike Place Market Historical Commissioner, I'm asking council members to exclude Pike Place Market from Council Bill 120456 as proposed by Amendment 1, Version 1 from Council Member Lewis. Pike Place Market, if not only is one of the few vibrant places, parts of the city of Seattle left. While big corporations such as Macy's and Nike left Seattle, the unique nature of charming market powered by small resilient business owners has kept market a place that millions of people visit every year. Pike Place Market has been preserved by MHC for 50 years. Please allow us to preserve it. Also, I wanted to emphasize as a commissioner that any seismic study or mechanical repair that might happen at the market, MHC with unique set of skills is there to help with the project, and commission members always valuable and by no means available and by no means will delay or have ever delayed the process, yet they are there to improve and help the process. Just as
Thank you very much. Grace, followed by Leilani Jensen and Tisbury Pringle Ennis.
Thank you. My name is Grace Leong, and first to thank you, Councilmember Lewis, for proposing the amendment.
Grace, can you hold the mic a little
Sure.
closer?
I'm an architect, I'm a neighbor, and I am the current chair of the Market Historical Commission. And I want to address one point, which is the proposal of this being a streamlined process or a more streamlined process. And in the last few years, we have not been inundated with applications. We have had meetings canceled, and we have had meetings with 1 or 2 applications. So the Historical Commission really strives to make the process as robust as possible to include public comment, and that should not be taken away. Thank you.
Thank you. Leilani Jensen.
Hi, I'm Leilani Jensen. I'm new to the market, one of the newest artists there. And all I can say is I don't know that much, but I know it's working. I talk to people from all over the world there and they love it. And they love it because it feels real. It doesn't feel corporate. It feels like its decisions are being made by the people who work there. And you can't mess with it. You just need to leave it alone. And it's beautiful. It's one of the last beautiful things in this city. And it brings people to not only the businesses that are in the market, but hopefully as downtown comes back, it will bring them out of the market and into the surroundings. So it's really in the whole city's best interest to keep it the way it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Tisbury, followed by Skip Knox and Brooks Kolb.
Hi, thank you. My name is Tisbury Pringle Ennis. I've been a artist and business owner at Pike Place Market for 20 years. I strongly support Councilmember Lewis's amendment to remove Pike Place Market from legislation 120456. Let the Historical Commission continue to do its good work. There is absolutely no reason to make a change. Thank you.
Good morning, council members. My name is Skip Knox. I'm not going to read all of this to you. I'm not even going to read anything at all. Really. Everybody's talked about the ordinance, but somebody has to implement the ordinance. And I'm sorry to say, it cannot be the Department of Neighborhoods. I've done some research on their behavior to quote, support as requested, as the ordinance reads, the Pike Place Market Historic Commission. When they set out on a survey and don't tell the Market Historic Commission they're going to do it, that's not supporting, that's suppressing. Withholding information when it finally came back in the form of a report is not supporting. The first thing that the commissioners heard about the survey was when it showed up in their email. So I'll simply say this. They've done everything they can to suppress and suffocate and stall what should be done with support for the commission. And I hope
Thank you. Brooks Kolb, followed by Ernie Dornfeld and Nick Seton. Sorry if I'm got the last name wrong. Please go ahead.
Hello, my name is Brooks Kolb. I'm with the Seattle Allied Arts Foundation. And as you may know, our parent organization, Allied Arts of Seattle, was right there in the beginning of the fight to save the market in 1971. Ever since, we've watched as the Pike Place Market Historical Commission has done an excellent job preserving the market. So I want to agree with all of the comments that have been made so far very eloquently by others. And I share the concern that the Pike Place Market could become more of a corporate entity if the amendment to remove it from the legislation is not approved. So on behalf of the organization, we heartily recommend the amendment be passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ernie, please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm Ernie Dornfeld, President of Friends of the Market. I'd like to speak in support of Amendment 1 to Council Bill 120456. We support Councilmember Lewis's amendment, which removes changes to the authority of the Pike Place Market Historical Commission from this bill. The commission regulates changes in design and use in the market. It does its work in public. Its members are appointed by the mayor from people who have a demonstrated sympathy with the purposes of the historic district. The knowledge and experience of commission volunteers have enabled the commission to be successful in regulating changes during 2 large-scale renovations of the market, first in the 1970s and 80s, and later on in 2008 to 2010. The market has adapted its publicly owned structures to meet accessibility standards as well as fire and safety and seismic safety requirements. This work was done under the regulatory guidance of the Market Historical Commission. The commission needs continued robust staff support from the Department of Neighborhoods.
Thank you, Mr. Dornfeld. Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Nick, followed by Ezra Alem and Ryan Atala.
Hi, I'm Nick Seton. I'm a resident in the neighborhood. I am with the Friends of the Market through vote of the market community. I sit on the PDA Council. Thank you, Councilman Lewis, for proposing your amendment to Council Bill 120456. At this point, over the last few months, y'all have heard from market historical commissioners. You've heard from the market PDA. You've heard from the Friends of the Market. You've heard from countless market community members whose lives, whose minds and hearts are intertwined with this place. You've heard from the Market Foundation. You've heard things from a contemporary lens. You've heard things from a historical lens. Listen to the market community. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Thank you.
Ezra Alem, followed by Rayan Atala and Leslie Booker.
This gentleman wants to withdraw his.
Okay. Okay. What's your name, sir?
Rayan Atala.
Okay. Thank you. Leslie Booker, followed by Larry Barton.
Hi, I'm Leslie Bucher. I'm a current member of the Market Historical Commission. And as you've seen here today and last month, the public has a lot to say about Pike Place Market. Sometimes our commission meetings go 3 hours long or longer because we are listening to all the public comments with every single thing that comes in front of the Historical Commission. And if you pass this bill in its current state, we'll be removing the opportunity for public comment on all of these things. So please pass the amendment, remove Pike Place Market, and give these guys a voice on every single thing they like to comment, including every shrub, every sign, every light fixture, all of these things. They have an opinion. Let's let them share it. Please remove Pike Place Market. Thank you.
Thank you. Larry Barton, let's see, followed by Buster Simpson and Duncan Team.
Everything that people have said here during these comments can be condensed to 6 words. It ain't broke, don't fix it.
Thank you. I have Buster Simpson, Duncan Team, John Brink, and the last speaker I have is Bob Braun.
Thank you. Thank you, Andrew Lewis, for the amendment. I'm Buster Simpson. I was a resident in the neighborhood, the market, for about 15 years and on the commission in the early 80s. I love the comment about the market is real. I think it all just boils down to that, and you don't get it through processes that aren't grassroots. The city has on record, both the mayor and the council, of more citizen engagement. This is an example, a classic example of a laboratory where ideas get developed and improved upon. It's dynamic, and that's what you need. Thank you.
Duncan.
Hi, my name is Duncan Thiem. I'm proud to be a friend of the market. I'm here today to support and echo the sentiments of this community. Councilmember Lewis, thank you so much for hearing this community and for proposing your amendment to this legislation. And to the rest of the council, I would offer the observation that whenever asked, the citizens of this city rise up and support the market resoundingly just the way it is. And I ask you to join that tradition today. Today is the day we need your support for the market. Join that tradition, join the market, restore the full authority of the Historic Commission. I look forward to the unanimous support of this committee and of the full council next Tuesday. It ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay, John Brink and Bob Braun.
Hello, thank you. My name is John Brink. I operate a tour guide business in the market. And one of my joys of my job is to show people from all over the world how unique the market is. They always leave with a different understanding about the community. They feel the family, market family, obviously, you know, in the house today. And I'm kind of, you know, being redundant. But again, just you got to think of it as an ecosystem, and it's a delicate ecosystem. Just leave it the way it is. Anything worthwhile as human beings takes time, takes attention, and the market's a perfect example of that. Thank you, Mr. Lewis, for your support and for listening. And that's all I got to say. I support the amendment.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
My name is Robert Braun. I am the acting chair of the market constituency. The market constituency is the elected body that governs or manages or assists in managing, maybe is the better way to say it, the market. We have 400 citizens that are members of the constituency. Not a single member has voiced support for this transfer of authority to the Department of Neighborhoods. Unanimous in our thinking is that item B of the original proposal, which was to exclude the Pike Place Market from this law entirely, should be adopted by the City Council. We're very hopeful that you will simply exclude the market from this transfer of authority from a working model of citizen participation to another authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that concludes our list of speakers. So we will move on to the first legislative item. Devin, will you please read item 1 into the record?
Item 1, appointment 02441, appointment of Ezra Alem as member, Seattle Human Rights Commission for a term to July 22nd, 2023 for briefing, discussion, and possible vote.
Thank you very much. I understand Mr. Alem is here. Is Mr. Alem here? Hi, good morning. Please come up to the table here. And we have Meredith Stone from Department of Neighborhoods. Meredith, do you want to speak to the appointment?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Morales. My name is Meredith Stone, and I'm happy to be here as a representative of the Office for Civil Rights Advisory Commissions and to introduce Ezra Alem, who's been nominated to join the Seattle Human Rights Commission. Ezra brings experiences in foster care, the criminal justice system, and educational systems, as well as involvement in nonprofit organizations. He has worked with legislators to help change and create new and better systems for those involved with the child welfare system. Ezra is currently attending Seattle University and expects to graduate in 2024. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here. We'd love to hear from you about your interest in the commission and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself.
Of course. I think she practically said a lot of things that I wanted to say, but in a different way. I have a lot of experience, both sides, from personal and academic experience when it comes to foster careship, and for a long period of time, I had a chance to speak up for myself, or didn't know how to, or had a mentorship to help me through hardships. And after I aged out, I thought I knew what I was supposed to do. I gave up on a lot of dreams and goals because my past constantly comes back to me. And a lot of times now, I mean, I have to make one correction. I don't go to school anymore because I gave up on my dream. But being able to be a part of the commission to supporting the next generations of youth who are struggling, who are traumatized or emotional about certain things. Foster care is a very sensitive topic for me, since it has destroyed my future, my family, and my sense of existence, in a sense. And being able to be a part of this commission will be able to have that voice for that one person who wants to be heard and acknowledged and understood, that the criminal justice system is not fair in the sense of how foster kids and unaccompanied youth are treated. It helps me to be able to kind of be that bridge between foster kids versus normal kids. I didn't have a lot of opportunities, and most people in foster care don't have a lot of opportunities. We've always been confined into certain areas, and sometimes we have a hard time adjusting to society because of the things that we went through. Some people don't make it. And I've seen a lot of people commit suicide, and the people who I attached to committed suicide. So it desensitized me throughout the whole experience, and I couldn't continue on being a lawyer or wanting to pursue my degree in law because it's just too painful. So this is my opportunity to kind of push my experience and my traumas into a way to kind of voice a change and the need of change, and kind of finding a home for my traumas. And the first time I was able to do that was helping Governor Inslee to develop in the Department of Youth, DCYF, but I don't think that's even doing anything different. I think that there needs to be the right people at the right place. And I feel like I'm one of those people who's going to be at the right place and at the right time if I was given the opportunity.
Well, thank you so much for coming here. Thank you for being vulnerable. That's a hard story to share, and I see the emotion that it brings up for you. So thank you for being here, and for being willing to bring that lived experience into the Human Rights Commission. I think you're right. It will be a very important connection point for you. And my hope is that as part of the city family, maybe we'll be able to figure out how to help you continue your desire to finish your education and find some way for you to connect in that way as well. Colleagues, are there any questions or comments for Mr. Lim? Yes, Councilmember Nelson.
I simply wanted to say that I read your story, and hearing you speak about your the wisdom that you will bring to this commission, I just have to say thank you very much for being willing to give your time and service. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Nelson. Other comments? Councilmember Strauss, please go ahead.
Thank you, Ezra. Thank you for your strength. Thank you for sharing what you've said today and the work that you've already done in our state. I know it might feel like the department at DCYF isn't doing much yet, and without you, it wouldn't be there. I think that for a lot of people in our society and our community, if you haven't interacted with foster care, there's a lot of unknowns. You talked about aging out without, having somebody to help you and create that direction. Society has required you to be a larger adult at a time when you were still a kid, and that strength that you have and the knowledge that you have is the only way that we can make this change, so that we can make a better future, so that these practices stop and that we're able to create the interventions that set people up for success rather than setting them up to experience the trauma that you described earlier. I won't try to summarize in any way. I'm sorry I'm not there with you in Chambers right now. I'm working out of my district office in District 6, and I'm just very impressed with you. I am heartened to hear that you are continuing to advocate in our community to make a difference, so that the next generations of people don't have to have the experience that you did. I'm just incredibly impressed, and I'm grateful, incredibly grateful for you being with us today, you sharing your time and your knowledge with our city. Keep it up, don't stop. And if there's anything ever I can do, please connect with me. I'd love to be your supporter too.
Thank you.
Well said, Councilmember Strauss. Thank you very much. Okay, colleagues, I am going to move that the committee recommend approval of appointment 2441. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. Devin, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Strauss,
Absolutely.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Chair Morales,
Yes.
4 in favor.
Great. The motion carries, and the committee recommendation that the council approve the appointment will be sent to the February 7th full city council meeting. Ezra, you don't have to be there, but we will, these will get included in the consent agenda. So I'm sure they will be passed. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to item 2. Devin, will you please read the short title of agenda item 2 into the record?
Agenda item 2, Council Bill 120456, an ordinance relating to historic preservation review procedures, amending and making permanent certain temporary procedures for briefing, discussion, and possible vote.
Great. And as we all know, Councilmember Lewis has proposed amendment to this legislation. So Councilmember Lewis, once we hear from the department and from central staff, the floor will be yours. Okay. Okay, Lish, I'm going to ask you first. Is Lish here? Yes, Lish is here. If you could refresh our memory about this bill, and then I will ask Sarah from DON if there's anything they want to add.
Okay. So Council Bill 120456 would amend our historic preservation provisions for the city's historic districts and landmarks, providing authority to the Department of Neighborhoods to review projects administratively rather than bringing minor projects in front of the various boards and commissions that are appointed to review landmarks. You had a robust discussion in December. So I'll hand it over to DON to add anything more.
Great, thank you.
Hi, this is Sarah Bells from the Department of Neighborhoods. I don't think we have a whole lot to add, just that this legislation is an outgrowth of temporary administrative review procedures that were in place, put into place during the pandemic. And following the city's experience with the temporary rules, as well as some outreach and engagement work that we had a consultant do, that revealed that there was, with the exception of Pike Place Market, there was generally strong support for making the temporary rules permanent in the city's other historic districts, and also for the Landmarks Preservation Board. We advanced this legislation to the council, and we are grateful for the opportunity to be here today, and yeah, happy to answer any further questions.
Thank you. Okay, Councilmember Lewis, would you like to move your amendment?
Thank you, Chair Morales. I move Amendment 1 to Council Bill 120456.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Councilmember Lewis, would you like to address your amendment?
Thank you, Chair Morales, and thank you to everyone who came out today to advocate for this amendment. And I appreciate the public comment. Just to take a moment, I think this was alluded to by Bruce Rutledge in his testimony in the public comment session, but the market is one of the places we don't talk a lot about right now in the context of our downtown recovery, because it is doing quite well, as Bruce testified to. In fact, throughout the last couple of years, which have been a very difficult time for the broader downtown neighborhood, it's really been great to see that even in those darkest days of 2020, that the market community and the people that make up the market community never faltered and really rose to the occasion to be the gathering space of our downtown, to be the breadbasket of our downtown, to be the place that gave us hope when everything else was closing and return to the office was uncertain and challenges we still grapple with. So I want to thank everyone in this room for being a part of that. Before I expand on the amendment, because I think it really is, it's amazing to have this asset in the center of our downtown neighborhood, and the recovery that we're starting to see the beginning of is due in no small part to the work of the market community. So thank you so much. So in terms of the amendment for the legislation that is in front of us, it goes without saying that Pike Place Market, and I know there would be no disagreement from any member of the council or city leadership, is a civic gem in the city and one of the biggest draws that makes us a unique place. And we know that during the COVID era, there had to be some accommodation for the inability to have congregate meetings. There had to be some accommodation for ways to make sure that the government of business could go on and adapt to a COVID era footing. And we're debating a number of those things now as a council, with the emergency order ending and making decisions on what should permanently become part of our business, what should maybe be revisited, what should revert back to how it was pre-COVID. And this squarely, I think, falls into that category, at least so far as the Market Historic Commission, as something that should revert back to the arrangement that's existed for decades, the arrangement that was ratified by the people of the city, the arrangement that we at the City Council have reaffirmed time and time again, that the Market Historic Commission be in a position to look over and approve the matters that are under Council Bill 120456 as the body that's making those decisions. The market community is strongly in favor of carving out the Market Historic Commission. I have no preference or opposition to the other historic commissions in this bill having varying degrees of this administrative authority being made more permanent, because we have not heard from those bodies or from constituencies in those historic districts expressing strong opposition. But I have not heard a single person suggest that the Market Historic Commission should have these administrative changes made permanent. We have seen strong mobilization that's evident today from people in the gallery who have spoken in favor of this carve out, as well as a large volume of communications, emails, phone calls from people expressing the same opinion and feedback. And ultimately, I firmly believe that as city council members, our accountability is to seeking how we can best deliver for the people who we represent, and not necessarily try to seek accommodation that might make it easier for a department or some other institution to do some of the business in front of the city. The ultimate accountability that we have is to work for the people and not necessarily for a department or other institutions. We confirmed at our last meeting that there's not going to be a significant impact to the flow of work. The commission has not requested this change, nor is there a significant number of applications in a given year. I think in 2022, there are about 4 things that fall within the categories that would permanently be put under administrative review. I don't think that unduly is a workload that is going to have a significant impact on the efficacy or efficiency of the commission, or have a significant impact on the ability to get this work done in a timely and effective way. So for those reasons, I think any argument around efficacy or efficiency is significantly outweighed by the significant public feedback opposing this change. And for those reasons, I'm moving this amendment today, and I look forward to a discussion this morning and a vote on this amendment, and look forward to voting on the rest of the council bill without, as far as I'm concerned, any objection to it. So thank you, Madam Chair. And with that, I don't have any additional introductory remarks to the amendment.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Nelson, please go ahead.
So I went to the ribbon cutting of the Seattle Convention Summit, Convention Center Summit edition this past week, a couple days ago. And if you climb or descend that spectacular stairway that kind of hangs out over the sidewalk of Pine Street, what you see as you look west is the iconic market sign. And that resonates because of what the market represents, which is Seattle's history. And then, of course, everything that it still provides the community in the city today. And the reason why it is so strong, and I hate using this word, but the reason why that brand endures so well is because of you. I mean, you don't mess with the market, because these are the people behind its stewardship. And so at our last meeting, basically, I signaled my support for removing this from the market from the legislation. For these reasons, I basically said that the mayor declared an emergency and now it's over. Secondly, to repeat what's now a bumper sticker: if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And most important to my decision is always what my constituents are telling me. And so while Ms. Spencer was gracious in saying that nothing is unanimous, this is getting pretty close. So I will support this amendment. Thank you very much, Councilmember Lewis, for coming forward with this. And I would request to be a co-sponsor, and I will support this amendment.
Councilmember Lewis. I'm sorry, Councilmember Nelson. Okay, any other comments, colleagues? Great, I'm not seeing any. I want to thank Councilmember Lewis for bringing the amendment. Thanks to all of you for being here today and sharing your comments. And I do want to thank the department for the work that they're doing to try to keep the trains moving, so to speak, with the work of the city. If there are no further comments, then I will call for a vote to Councilmember Lewis's amendment. Devin, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Strauss,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Chair Morales,
Yes.
4 in favor.
The motion passes and the amendment is adopted. And now we have the amended bill before us. So I move that committee recommends passage of Council Bill 120456. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further comments about this bill? I'm not seeing any. Devin, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Strauss,
Yes.
Councilmember Lewis,
Yes.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Chair Morales,
Yes.
4 in favor.
Great. The motion carries and the committee recommendation that the council pass the legislation will be sent to the February 7th City Council meeting. Okay, that concludes our agenda for today. Our next scheduled meeting is for February 10th. Thank you all for attending. It is 10:37 and we are adjourned.